All right, we're back, Sun Valley LKQ. It's been a few months since I've been here. Fortunately, the motors haven't been moving as fast. We got a lot else going on, but finally back. I'm technically not here to pull a motor. I would not like to, we got a lot going on, but I'm here for a bunch of very specific parts. As I said in the last video, I'm doing two LS swaps right now, the 72 Nova and the 64, I think, C10. I need to pick up a bunch of parts for those very specifically, and I know where to find them and what to find them in. If we find a motor, maybe we'll take it, probably not. But yeah, as I find stuff, I'm gonna point it out, and there's also a couple things that I want for my own stuff. So right off the bat, I said I didn't want to pull a motor, but here we've got Envoy. So like I've said before, the 8th digit tells you what motor's in it. For these for the 6 cylinders, it's the VIN S, and then anything that's on an S is a V8, and you know, you've got VIN U, VIN N for 6 liters, VIN T for 5.3. So 06 Envoy, we have a VIN M, which I'm like, of course, that means we're stuck pulling a motor, but I went to go look at it. And sure enough, someone has already pulled it. I'm very happy to see that. Finally, someone else is also pulling these aluminum 5.3s. I hate to see them here and then I don't have time or whatever to pull them out. This one, it doesn't look like I don't see it anywhere. Even though this is a Denali, which is for sure always the 5.3, I don't think it was all-wheel drive. Yeah, so yeah, sure enough, you can see in here, it wasn't all-wheel drive, so it was pretty easy for somebody else to pull. The all-wheel drive versions of these, it's basically, it's like a 6-hour thing because you have to take apart the whole front suspension. But yeah, did find something that did have a aluminum 5.3 in it. Somebody else got it first. I'm very happy for them. Right, so I found the first thing that I'm looking for. Let me get up in here and get it all the way up in here. So most people are probably familiar, whenever you do an LS swap, you pretty much always run the semi-returnless fuel system. It's the Corvette style regulator. It's got the 2 ports in the back, 1 port on the front. You run full tank pressure into the back port. It bleeds off to the back of the tank, and then you have one 58-pound regulated rail, or one line all the way up to the motor, all the way to the front. So in the Camaro and Corvette, that started in 99. Technically 98, 97s are, they have a feed and return. And then for trucks, they didn't implement that all the way until 03. So I've got a ton of extra rails and I want to run on the C10. You know, it's going to be all stock 5.3, but I want to run it returnless. So this truck is an 05. So 04, 05, and 06 trucks came with the returnless rail, only one rail, and you can readily put that onto the older intake manifold. There's also the second one, which is the E85 rail, which is stainless. The problem is that that rail is just a little bit taller. Those injectors are better because they're much bigger. They're 36 pounders instead of the 24s. But if you're gonna run the 24s and you don't happen to have the right rail, all you gotta do is get a 2004, 05, and 06 gasoline, which has the plastic rails, and swap everything over. So got the proper tool, so I don't have to cut it. Pull it right off, and then just unbolt all the 8mm, and then pull the injectors off that I don't need. Yeah, everything's unplugged. I think I can get this up. Didn't have to cut anything. Let's get this guy up back here. There we go. And then I do not need these injectors. No one really does. They're only 24 pounds. They're very short, and I have lots of them. So yeah, no more Multec 2 injectors for me. So I'll put them off to the side and then just take the rail. It's been liberated, no more injectors. It had a ton of fuel in it, dumped all over me. But before we go, so 05s actually have a couple other cool things. If you really want to swap it onto your older GMT 800, all 05s, and I believe starting in 04, they all had Hydro Boost. So if you want to get rid of your booster, you can get Hydro Boost. And then in 05, all of them had electric fans. So you can take the electric fans. I have 2 sets of those back at the house. And then the harness for it, it's just a simple pinout on the ECU, is buried under here. And then technically, so 04.5, that's when you got floating wrist pins. This one's an 05, so it definitely has it, or an 06 or something. The problem is that this truck is a VIN V. The 8th digit is a V for the VIN, which means it's a 4.8, so that means this thing's not worth anything to anyone. So onward we move. One more thing before we leave this thing. Last video I was talking about how I was noticing some of these trucks, they always have this, that's, you know, from LKQ, but a lot of them actually have this insurance sticker, and a lot of them say mileage. So if you get lucky and you want to pull a motor, sometimes you can actually see mileage on the vehicle. This one's only 279. So I know before we've gotten busy pulling engines, but I want to see if I can see the highest mileage, see if there's like a 400 and 500,000 mile mileage truck here. All right, so I found the second thing that I'm mainly here for. So here we've got a 2001 VIN T 5.3 Silverado. So we haven't seen it yet, but that C10 that I'm working on, it is technically a 94, 95, 96-ish LT1, small block swap. That's all coming out. Part of the problem with that is that I can't get into the computer. I can't tell what the truck was. It's all a whole bunch of tuning mess and I can't get into it. So what I'm going to do is I need this specific PCM. All right, got it free. As you can see here, looks pretty familiar. This is an 0411, just like the computers I always like. If you go in here, see 1220 0411. So 2001 and 2002, it's all basically the exact same. And the significance is, so that C10 is going to be a bone stock 5.3 with an 0411. Bone stock 5.3 0411. So this is the truck that new C10 is going to think it is for the rest of its life. This way I don't have to flash it, say it's something else. It's like, oh, it's 02 this. There's no, way down the line, there's no trying to figure out what year something is, whatever. It is an 01. Everything is matched the year it is. So there's no confusion. All right, so it's free, we got that. The other thing I'm actually gonna do, so I haven't done it on camera yet. I've got a stock harness from a Firebird that's gonna go into the Nova. I'm cutting it down. I don't recommend anybody ever do that. It's way too much work. It's 20 years old, but I'm experimenting with it. I'll probably do some videos on it. The other thing I'm gonna do, I've been recently watching other videos. What you can do is you can take just the blue connector of the red blue, cut it, de-pin it to where you only have like 4 or 5 pins and actually make your own bench harness. You can buy them for like $100, or you can literally just make one with just cutting it, whatever this is going to cost me. And I'm going to experiment with that too. So I'm going to take this, I've got the other harness at home, and then there'll be a future video of me playing around with stock harnesses and the stock connectors. So as you can see, I got my blue card. So red is the one for the cable throttles that, that's until 03. That's when they went blue-green. So you always want to use the red-blue ones. So if you come over here, you can see exactly why I just pulled that rail. This is the earlier style. You see you have the feed and return line. So one thing I haven't yet done it in the yard when I pull a motor, but what I need to do is pull the motor, and then because they make you buy all of this extra stuff, they make you buy intake manifold, whatever, injectors, I need to explain how to mix and match it in the yard, because you want certain things from certain years. Anything electrical, you definitely want 02 and down. If you're going to take any part of the harness, you want the red blue, and then this one's already missing, probably for a reason. 02 and down has cable throttles. So as you can see, the cable's there. You've got all that. Somebody took it because they clearly wanted it, but they all have, return style fuel systems. So if you're gonna set it up in the yard, get 04 and up certain things, 02 and down certain things. As I see them, I'll point them out. So one thing that I've always wanted for myself, so the Avalanche, I guess most people haven't seen it on this channel yet, but I bought the Avalanche and it has smoked headlights, and it is just dark at night. It's awful. So what I said was, in a really old Junkyard video, I found a set of lenses. I'm like, oh, they're kind of cloudy, I'll just find more. The problem is that these style, like the cat eye lenses, only came on Silverados after 03. And most of what's in yards, 03 and up Silverados are actually pretty valuable because people still use them. The SUVs are everywhere, but those have the original style lights. So since that day that I found a set, they were too cloudy, that was 2+ years ago, I have never found another set. Finally, I found another set off of an Avalanche of all things. They're a little cloudy, but I'm so sick of the dark headlights. I'm just gonna take these, I'm gonna restore them, and hopefully I can at least see a little better. So I technically found something else that I do need, although it's missing. Here we've got just a 4L6E chilling on the ground. I've said this before, I really need a bell housing because for my big black run stand, I'm using a T56 bell housing, which I need for an actual swap. I want to just run a really cheap, free 4L60 bell housing. The problem is that they're really hard to take off because there are special torques and all Loctited. They need like a ton of, it's really hard to do in the yard. So I'm hoping I can just find one on the ground. I can maybe get more leverage, but here's one that has all the guts taken out of it, and the converter's gone, the bell housing's gone. So I don't know if somebody wanted it for themselves. I don't know why they would. I'm trying to see if it's sitting around here somewhere, but I don't really see anything. So hopefully I find another one of these. But until then, I'll keep looking. Here we've got Chevy Express brand, cool. You can see it's got an LS in it, cool. It's 8 lug, super cool. Probably 6.0, but then you go back and you look. So for whatever reason, 8th digit is the VIN V, which means it's a 4.8. I don't know why, I guess it's just extreme cost cutting, but GM, for their half-ton express fans, are all 5.3s, and the 3/4 tons are 6.0s or 4.8s. So nobody wants a thing, but there is something interesting about it. It does in fact have a 4L80. Somebody took the pan, So that's kind of gone. So people always ask me, they're like, hey, I want a 480, I need a 480. If people actually want to buy them from me, I know where to find them. I always find them. I usually just don't pick them up because, you know, they're not as glamorous as the engines and everything, but there's a 480 right here. I find them constantly. They're much easier to find than 6.0s. Every single 3/4 ton, everything got one. So if you do want a 480 from me, reach out and, you know, I will pick one up if there is enough demand. Here's something I'm very excited to see. Finally, there are GMT 900s in the yards. So this is a this is a VIN 0, which means it's an iron 5.3 Gen 4 with E85, which is kind of whatever, but it's still iron. I really want these here because I don't want the short blocks because they're iron, but they come with 243 heads, floating wrist pins, flat top pistons. They're really good for parts to just rip apart and then just keep none of the Gen 4 like electronics and everything. If you come in here, this motor's obviously completely gone. So somebody was already here, took everything they wanted. They took a lot from here. It's funny, they didn't even take off the front end. It makes it so much faster. But I wonder what all they took and what capacity. I see an LS head gasket in here. Maybe they took the heads off because they have all 243 heads. And actually I have somebody who specifically wants to buy 243 heads from me. I have 2 sets, but I'm using both. But yeah, as more I see, you know, the GMT 900s. I technically want a bunch of parts for these for my own 2012 Silverado. Like I've got cloth interior and stuff. So as soon as I see these trucks getting in here, I'm going to really start ripping them apart to have a bunch of parts for all my Gen 3 engines and then just, you know, interior stuff for my own vehicle. So here's something that I've always wanted to try. So as I've said before, you know, LS came out in 97 in the Corvette, 98 in the Camaro, 99 in the trucks. The Express van is interesting because it lagged a long time. It didn't get an LS until all the way to 03. So this is an 02. It's still a Vortec 350 L31, you know, spider injection. But what's cool is because it was so, you know, far after the Vortec, it actually has, come in here. So this PCM down in here, this is an 0411 from an LS. So what I've always wanted to do is take one of these harnesses, strip them down, terminate them for not spider injection, and then have my fancy 0411 tunes, but actually on a small block. As you can see, there's the good old L31. You know, the spider injection is pretty terrible. The heads are iron. They flow good, but they're iron. But the short blocks on these are really good because they're roller cam and 4-bolt main, technically, if it's for a 3/4 ton. So, you know, maybe one day if somebody wants me to build them a fuel injected small block that I can tune, I know where to get the short block, I know where to get the harness. It's just a matter of unterminating whatever is spider and running, you know, your typical EV1 setup and then dial it in. Here we have another GMT 900. Obviously this one is even more stripped than the last one. Motor's gone. I want the leather seats. Those are both gone. But I'm just happy to see these. I've seen a couple of these in the yard. This is the first time I've seen 2 at once and we're not even done. So hopefully these are getting cheap enough with gas being like $6 a gallon. Maybe they are. And then, so the main things with these is that every single 2007 and newer 5.3 has active fuel management. And it's basically 100% failure rate if you have the system not turned off. And it's not difficult to change them, it's just very labor intensive. You have to pull the cylinder heads off. So eventually when these things finally get cheap enough new, or not new, you know, to buy them as regular cars, and they're actually mechanically totaled, that is when these things will be in yards everywhere. These didn't get the 6L80 trans until 09. The 6L80 is much stronger than the 4L60, but it's also, when they fail, it's very cheap to fix. It's like $1,200 to put a new trans in, whereas trying to fix the 6L80 is probably like $4 or $5 grand. So that will mechanically total them when they're cheap enough, and then the lifters, but until then, they're still a rarity in the yard. All right, so I saw this, got pretty excited. Here's a cat-eye single cab work truck. If you come over here, it says it's an 07, so obviously it's 99 to 06, and then 07 they made the classic, especially on the work truck super low trim. So I really want to get an 06 or 07 because I want the HD hood for the Avalanche. You know, everybody wants to do the swap, but for whatever reason, I think this thing might actually be labeled wrong. The grill's gone, obviously, but it's got the older hood. So I thought for sure all the work truck models got the HD hood that comes down here. Maybe it's wrong, you know, who knows, but you know, fortunately, nope. I really want one of these hoods. Getting them in the yard is super rare because you have to find an 06 only Silverado or a 3/4 ton. And it's not already gone. Like these things are gone instantly when they go in yards. So, you know, oh well. So I found the truck that if you were, you know, piecing together your thing in the yard, this is the, not the manifold, but definitely the rails and injectors you would want to take. So this truck is an 06. You can obviously take the motor too, because if it's an 06, it's got 13mm bolts for the valley pan, which means floating wrist pin. And this truck is smashed in the front, which means the motor is probably fine. I don't see an insurance thing, so no idea on mileage. Maybe it's written, I don't think it's mileage. Anyway. A little hard to get it out because obviously everything's crushed in, but this is a VIN Z, which is same thing. It's an L59, same thing that we just got firing on the ground. This is identical to an LM7, same 285 horsepower, same internals, but it has E85. So if you come in here, you can see, I guess it's already off. I can pull this off. All right, so actually I got it off. So this rail, see, stainless and it's returnless, and these injectors are a little bit shorter, or a little bit taller actually. The cups are a little bit shorter than the Multec 2s, and then they have a EV6 injector plug. Let me get this off. See here, this is an EV6 injector plug, which came out later, and that's all the Gen 4 stuff. So what you can do is get your early intake manifold, throw a O2 and down cable throttle on it. You technically want to get the intake manifold also from O2 and down, because this little nipple will get stuck in the way of your throttle body, because the vent for this breather is on the throttle body and not on the thing. EVAP, that's a plug here. You have to buy a plug, and then EGR is over on this side. It's casted in plastic on this side, but you can just buy a plug. So get yourself a manifold, O2 and down, get yourself a throttle body, O2 and down, and then go and rob one of these. So like I said, this is a stainless rail. These are 36-pound injectors. You will really never run out of injector with a 36, and if you do, you're making enough power where, you know, you've got something else to worry about. So this directly swaps on. It is returnless, and the 36-pound injectors, obviously, you know, 36. And then the other thing is that, so I don't like the Multec 2 injector because it's too short. It makes it annoying for trying to actually space the rail. And the Multec 2 injector is really, the injector plug is very small. So it's kind of annoying to adapt harnesses to it. I always set my harnesses up with EV1 injectors. They're like physically the largest, and then you can use a lot of LS1 stuff. The beauty of the EV6 injector is that you can install a little plastic adapter. It's not a pigtail, so it's all messy with an extra thing. It's literally a cheap piece of plastic that sits on this and converts this plug to an EV1 style, and then you can use all of your LS1 wiring straight on there. So yeah, if you are setting up an LS, that is the way to do it. O2 and down for most of it, O4 and up, E85 for the rest. And then here we go. Here's another 3/4 ton 98. So this is OBD2, Vortec L31. As you can see the computer here. So like I said, the 01 and 02 Express fans, those were still L31s. They got the 0411 computer. This is the computer. This is what's in that LT1 car. This is the earlier computer. I forget what it's called, but nobody likes them, nobody wants them. And sure enough, this also has a 480E in it. So and it's 98, so it's an OBD2 480E. So yes, if people want 480s, I know where to find them. They're not glamorous to pull out, but if people want them, I will buy them and I will sell them to you. Also, this small block, because it's a 3/4 ton, it's 4-bolt main. So if you're building a small block, this is the one to do. I don't really do much small block stuff unless somebody wants me to, but yeah. So this thing has got a lot of good stuff in it. We got another Express fan. Here's an 04. So I'm like, cool, LS. It's 6 lug, which means even though it says 2500 over there, it's technically, I guess, a half ton. You can see VIN T on the 8th, which is a 5.3, and it's got a 460, so that's not worth anything. However, the 3/4 ton, half whatever ton Express fans came with a special axle. So I've showed it before, but I'll show them again every time I see one. I should point it out. So it's going. So as you can see here, this is not your typical 8.6. It's got a lot more bolts. So this is the 9.5-inch semi-floater. I think it's 33 spun axles. It's even got numbers on it. I'll probably run those. But yeah, so this axle swaps into 800s. If you ever blow up your 8.6 and you don't want to rebuild that, get one of these out of a van. I think you might have to swap one of these hangers because the shocks are both forward and one's not backwards. But yep, this is a direct swap, and I think this one even has disc brakes. Yeah, so this one's a disc brake axle. So yeah, if you want to do a GMT 800 axle upgrade, this is the one. I found this is actually, it's pretty confusing with all the manifold stuff. This explains it pretty well. So this is an 03. The 03 is the only year that you want nothing from. 03 has return style fuel, you don't want that. Multec 2 injector, you don't want that. Yes, it has the EGR, casted off, but this port right here intercepts with the one that's on the cable throttle from the 02 and down, and obviously then it has the electronic throttle with the 8-pin, not the 6-pin. So basically, if you get an 03, throw it away completely. At least if you get an 02 or an 04 and up, and then you can at least use some of it and mix and match, but just make sure you avoid 03 entirely. All right, so we actually found another cat eye. I always talk about how it's actually really hard to find cat eye Silverados in here, especially 06s because of the fancy hood. But sure enough, we found two, and another set of headlights still here. And these are actually kind of in better shape. I noticed they actually have the dates on them. So these are 03s, so these are really old. But they actually look better than the one. So like this one's cracked, this one's kind of whatever. So I think we'll actually leave these two and then take these two. Here's something I've wanted to pull in the yard. Obviously, it would be kind of difficult because I'm a GM guy. Here we've got a 5.7 Hemi. These things like to drop valve seats, and as you can see here, there's really no body damage. There is airbags gone off, so maybe they smashed at the front end. I don't know. It got some writing on it. Maybe it looked, but yeah, I've always wanted to pull one of these, do a 5.7 build because 5.7s are cool. And I'm not just an LS guy. I do like all engines, but I don't. Obviously, I've never pulled one, so I can't pull it as fast as I normally pull these things. But you could try to pull one of these, open it up, find drop valve seats, motor's trash, throw it away. I'm not going to take that chance now, but hopefully one of these days I can pull something besides my LSs all the time and do something much different. So I'm extremely happy to see this in the yard. So this is a number 3 of GMT 900s, but if you look, it's a Silverado, not just a Yukon, and it's a 3/4 ton. So if you go up here, 2013 VIN G, that means it's an L96. So the L96 and LY6 are the same motor. L96 was the later one, came with E85. It has I think 50-pound injectors. So whoever got this totally scored. LS3 heads. Technically, it also comes with a 6L90. Most people don't want those, but that one's gone too. Clearly, it's everything. But yeah, the fact that Gen 4, truck stuff is starting to get in the yards and GMT 900s, I'm really, really happy to see that. Here we got a Rogue 4L60. Unfortunately, this was not disassembled like the other one was. So I need this bell housing for the run stand. The problem is that, so I've tried to take them off before, these T50s are really hard to get off. They really need a proper impact gum, and I think they're like a special T50. I don't even think I brought the socket. I think I forgot it. But I was hoping I would find one of these on the ground, tore apart. It's weird what people buy and stuff. So I found them completely shredded, but this one's all together. If I can find a T50 Torx, I guess I'll take it off. Maybe I can try at least, but hopefully I keep looking and find it, but if not, I guess, I'll figure it out next time. All right, so we're at the last little part of the yard. Here's all their really heavy stuff, and like I said, so here's 95 3/4 ton Chevy truck, small block, and then under here, 480. So yes, like I said, there was 3 or 4 I've already showed on camera, so they exist. See what else is here? Here's something really cool in the row of the really big heavy stuff. Here we have a freaking Duramax. I've never seen these actually here. They're always much more expensive for this yard. So dismantlers buy them and not your part yards. It's an 05, which means it's not an LB7. It's not the LBZ though. So it has the updated valve cover. So the LBZ had injector problems. What people would do is that you have to change injectors every however many, pretty common. And they're underneath the valve covers. It's a 12-hour job. That's what it pays. You have to pull everything off, whatever. And then for, I guess, 03 or for whatever they updated it, they made it so that the injectors are still bad, but you can change them without pulling off the valve cover. So you have to pull much less. I think it's a 3-hour job. Then finally the LBZ, which is 06 and the one everybody wants. Those fixed everything. Those ones are great. Then there's LMM, LML. They added all the emission stuff on top. I like LMLs because I like the GM 900, but this is basically just as good, I think, once you take all the emission stuff off. Or, you can, I think, turn this into an LBZ effectively. But I think this also would have had an Allison 1000 trans behind it. That's gone. But I've always wanted to pull one of these, build one, put it in something old so that I can, do whatever you actually want. But it's weird, this thing, the motor's here, everything on top is gone. I guess that's what people want. But, it's cool to see one of these here. They look really cool out of the car, or, visible. And yeah, maybe one day we'll pull one and I'll do a build on it. All right, so we're in the parking lot. Funny enough, we actually, on the way out, I saw a Gen 4 LS, and I was like, oh my God, ran over to it, thought it was a 6.0, realized it was actually one of the LY5s in one of those Yukons. Somebody clearly brought it all the way to the front, saw the price of a full motor, was like, nah, pulled the heads off, left it there, so we didn't take it because I don't want it. So as you can see here, here's the headlights that are on the Avalanche. These were also from the Junkyard. These got redone a long time ago, and I guess they've kind of gotten cloudy again. But they look a lot better than they did. So you can see, hopefully, I hate the freaking tint, but hopefully, you know, these will clear up good and look good. These are 50 bucks each, kind of expensive, but you know, hopefully they turn out. Hopefully they're not just a waste. Okay, I'll go over everything else I got. All right, so computer was like 100 bucks, not a bad deal. If you buy them from a lot of the people who make the harnesses, they're a lot more expensive. Technically, I think they usually get into them and then turn off bats and stuff, but you need to get them in anyway. So I would say just go and find any 0102 and grab one yourself. And this was only 20 bucks. So that was really nice. These are nice and cheap. This was like $3. So, you know, the yard's wears, some stuff's expensive, some stuff's not. This is really cheap. This is relatively cheap, and then headlights are expensive. So a little bit boring, you know, obviously most of me just talking. It felt good to not really get dirty all in my hands. But, you know, hopefully things keep picking up. I'm doing a lot of work in a lot of people's cars, and then the more work I do, the more stuff I need, the more I'll be here, and hopefully we'll be pulling more motors.